Hi there, my name is Joran Barres, and in this short movie I'm going to show you how you can use the BPMN multi-instance construct together with variable aggregation. We are going to build a simple review and approval process for documents. Alright, let's swap to my desktop. Here we go. So what you're seeing here is actually the Flowable 3.11 trial download, and once that's booted up, you'll be seeing this page where you can go to Flowable Work, Flowable Design, or Flowable Control. And I've already opened up the tabs before this recording. So here is Flowable Design, and the first thing we want to do is we want to create an app. Now, in Flowable, an app is basically a bundle of models that belong together, and you publish them together to runtime systems. So let's call this one just Demo App. And you can see it automatically generated a technical key for it. This is the key, the identifier that you use, for example, when using the REST APIs. And it's based on the human readable name. If I want to change it, of course, to something else, I could do that here. So once we have the app, I'm going to create a new model for the app, select process here, and I'm going to call this one the review and approve process. Same thing here, automatically a unique key was generated based on the human readable name. This opens up the BPMN editor with a blank canvas with the start event. The start event is basically where the execution starts once you start a new instance from this model. This is where the execution starts and will flow through the rest of the steps of your BPMN process. The thing we want to do in this particular use case is we want to capture some data, and capturing data can be done, for example, with a form. So I'm going to look for the start form reference property here, and I'm going to call this simply the start form. Go. This opens up the form editor, and I want to capture two pieces of data. First of all, I want to capture the documents that I want to have reviewed, and secondly, I want to select who will do the actual review. So uploading documents is done with the attachment widget. I'm going to name this one documents. And you can see that the editor automatically has bound this to the documents variable. This means that from that point on, from the moment we start our process instance and every other step that follows, we'll be able to reference or upload the documents through the documents variable. The second thing which I want to do is capture reviewers. And to do this, I'm going to use something called a subform. Now I can look for this or search for it here. I'm going to use a subform, and I'm going to call this one reviewers. Now, the reason why I'm using a subform is because this has a useful feature, which is called multiple elements. If I select it, you can see that there's now a flag that says show add button, show remove button. Using a subform, I can add multiple sub-elements to this collection, and it will be stored as a collection behind the scenes, as we'll see in a second. So let's create a very simple reviewer form. Here we go. And let's select the person picker. Go and call this one reviewer. All right. This will allow us now, when we run this, will allow us to upload a document, select the reviewers, and basically then go on with this. Now I want to try this out, of course, before I want to add more stuff to it. So I'm going to drag a user task to my canvas, connect it with a sequence flow, save it all, and let's publish it. So publishing, by basically clicking this button here, the cloud with the play icon, will make it available in my runtime system. So up to this point, we've been modeling. Nothing is running on my system. If I go to Flowable Work, hit the Create New button, you'll see there's nothing deployed to my system. If I hit the Publish button now in Design, go back to Work, click the Create New button, you'll see that because I have only one process in my system, it has seen this, shows me already the start form. So this is my upload of my documents, upload the document, and as you can see, the subform does its work. There's an add button here, so I can add one. I can pick somebody in my system. I can add somebody else here. Go and submit it. Cool. So this is the user task now. Not much to be seen here. I can't really see if things work, but luckily we've got something called Flowable Inspect. So I'm going to open it here. And with Flowable Inspect, as the name implies, I can inspect all the data within my process. So here in the variables, I can see that there's actually a reviewers variable, process variable, with two elements, the one reviewer Lisa and one other reviewer Sunny. All right, it's important that we remember this because what we're going to do now is we're going to create a task for these people that they can actually do the review work. So let's go to our BPMN editor again. Let's rename this one to review documents. Here we go. Create a form for it. So review documents form. Go. And the first thing I want to show on the screen is the document, obviously. Now we've got a widget called document gallery for this. Here we go. And if I bind this to the same variable as before, remember that I said that when we upload stuff, we've bound the uploaded documents to the documents process variable. I can simply reference this in the documents variable again later on, and this document gallery widget will know exactly what to do with it. What else do we want to do with this? Well, I might want to have our reviewers upload some comments. There we go. So here they can just write whatever they want. And of course, very important, they will need to be able to select whether they approve or reject this document. So I'm going to call this one approval. The result of the approval will be stored in the approval process variable. This is a static selection, a dropdown, and I will add 2 items. First one is the approved, obviously. This is the technical name, and this is the human readable name. And secondly, the rejected. And again, just using the same value here, but with the capitalized first character. All right. Cool. Let's go back to our BPMN process. So now we've simply got, when we start the instance, it will immediately go to one task. Now we want to bind this, we want to make multiple instances for each of the persons we select. So let's go now down to the important part of this movie, to the multi-instance. So if I now select here multi-instance, you can see I've got basically 3 types. Now the standard is not that important, it will default to one of these 2, but the really important one is either parallel or sequential. If I select sequential here, it will mean that the reviewers will be doing their work sequentially, as the name implies. So the first reviewer will review, once that's completed, second one will follow, third one will follow, etc. If I select parallel, on the other hand, all the reviewers will be able to do their work together, concurrently. So that's what we want. Let's select parallel here. Now, we need to say to the system, how do you want to create these instances? On what do you base yourself to create instances? Well, we've had our reviewers that we've uploaded in our start forms. So that's automatically, as you've seen in Flowable Inspect, this has been stored as the reviewers variable, right? So if I go here and open up Inspect again, you can see that it has stored this in an array called reviewers. So if I reference this, it will create one instance for each of these elements. And one element basically has reviewer in it. I'm already going to copy it because I'm going to use that like right now. So in this instance, I can expose the current element into the user task. So here I can put reviewer data. Of course, we've only got the name here, so it's not really important, but you can see how this, if this becomes more complex, can be used for uploading or binding different things. All right, so we've got the reviewer data. What I now need to do is I need to assign it to somebody else in the initiator. This is the default from Flowable. So I have the reviewer data, right? This is the element that I just bound. And within that, I actually have the thing I copy pasted. Here we go, got the reviewer. So each of these instances will now have an assignee based on the people I selected. All right, let's give that a go. Save it all, publish it. Here we go. Create a new instance, go to Flowable Work. Load the document again. Add somebody random here. Add another person. Here we go. Submit it. And you can see that the system now actually, if I check the runtime, it's now the review document step, but there are 2 tasks. This is the multi-instance at work. For each element in the collection that I selected in the start form, it has created a task. Now, if I'm an admin here, so I can look into everybody's tasks. Otherwise, I would have to log out, log in as Lisa Schmitz, check it, that stuff works. So if I'm an admin, I can just look at it. And you can see that the form that we've created is shown on the screen here. So I've got the document to review. I can open it, review it, whatever. I can approve or reject it. And I can say, very nice, right? Something like that. This is, completed. Here we go. It's done. You can see that there is one task remaining, which is the other reviewer. All right, so now we've got the multi-instance part done, but of course there is something really annoying here. If I would run this now with the other person, David Davidson, you can see there is something annoyingly going on here. The approved is already pre-filled here, and that's really not the point, right? And the reason for that is that this form, the process variables, are actually submitted on the process instance level, which is not what we want at this point, right? We actually want each one of our reviewers to do its job in isolation, and me, as the one who's asking the review, I'm interested in the overall result. And this is where the second part of this movie comes into play, which is the variable aggregation. So if I now scroll down to multi-instance section again, select the variable aggregation, I'll now be able to configure that. So what I can now do is I could say, well, I want to capture all of this into something that I call the result variable. I can say here default. This is, as I said, capturing and summarizing the data into one variable. If I really want to, I could define customized behavior. It's not important for this movie. And there's a couple of ways how I can define this variable. Well, first of all, the default one will simply take the data from each of the multi-instance instances, and will then put them into a new JSON variable. I can also select to make this a transient variable if I don't want to store this forever, right? The difference between a regular process variable and a transient one is a transient will only exist until the next wait state. The wait state, for example, is a user task. The other one, which is the create overview variable, that's an interesting one. This is one that gets created while the multi-instance is still running. This is useful if you want to show like a progress bar in another task, or you just want to see where things at. Now for us, it's not important. We simply want to have our review done. Once it's all done, we want to get the overview. All right. So we now need to define how we want to copy our data from the instances to the resulting variable. So I'm going to add one. Well, the most important one, obviously, is the approval, right? And we store that one in the approval variable. Now, again, I'm going to type this twice simply because I want to copy this one-to-one, same name. I could make a different name here, or I can even use an expression with some, fancy calculation with a backend bean or something, but, that's beyond the scope of this demo. The second thing is that they also have the comments, right? So I also want to capture the comments of each one of them. And I actually also want to capture the person that is doing it. And let me check again how I name this. So this is actually, right, this was the reviewer's data. So if I copy this, copy this, and if I say the source variable is actually, now this is an expression, right? The reviewer data dot reviewer, and I want to copy this into the reviewer, and it will capture who has said what and what the approval result would be. All right, let's see how this goes. Now I want to quickly check this before I do anything else, and I'm going to create a simple user task here, which I'm going to use to just use Flowable Inspect to inspect the data that's being produced. All right, let's save this, publish it to the runtime system. Here we go, create it, select the document, again, add reviewers. Here we go. All right, let's do the first review. So approve, ABC, and here, reject, DEF. Here we go. Well, we're now in the user task, right? So if I now open up Flowable Inspect, you can see we're now in the step after the multi-instance, and the result, the variable aggregation, has actually produced a result variable. If we look at the data, you can see this is a JSON variable, right? So as we've configured it, I'm going to show it again. Here we go. So we've configured to create a result variable with 3 elements: approval, comments, and actually the reviewer. And you can see that it has generated exactly that. So we've now got a JSON variable, a JSON array with 2 elements, one for each of the instances that contains the approval, the comment of the person, and the actual reviewer that did the work. Okay, we're almost there. I mean, now we've got captured the data, we've captured the reviewer's data. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to basically calculate whether I have an approval or a rejection. And I'm going to use something simple here. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to add in an exclusive gateway. An exclusive gateway allows me to go either, up or down here. So let me go here, move this a bit nicer here, say approved or rejected. Here we go. Just to make it a bit more nicer in BPMN, I'm going to add an int event. It's technically not necessary, but just looks better. What else are we going to do? Well, of course, we don't really know we don't really know how to know this is approved or rejected. So we're going to add a script task here. So here we go, a script task to calculate this information. Right. So let's move this a bit here. I mean, I'm screwing up a bit my my model here, so just bear with me for a sec. Here we go. That looks already a bit nicer. So what I'm going to do is calculate approval or not. Okay, so this is a script task. It's not going to be a very advanced script. Basically, we want to loop over that array, right? If I look here, I want to loop over the array and capture how many times did I have approved, how many times did I have rejected. So let's do something like, very simply, approval count equals 0, then rejected count start also on 0, and we're going to loop over our variable. Now this variable is called result, right? So we want to loop over the every element in the result array. Go. And then if we see that the r dot, and let's again check, r dot approval equals approved, right? We want to just copy paste this. We want to do add 1 to this. Otherwise, I want to make the rejected count bigger. Now, this is not going to work as is because there's a slight technical thing here, which we will investigate in the future to improve, is that this is actually internally stored as JSON. And in the Groovy script, which is the scripting language we use, this is not automatically going to resolve to a string. This is actually a JSON representation. So I actually need to say as text here to make this a textual string to do the to have the comparison equals. Otherwise, it's always going to be going into the else. And lastly, what I need to do is I want to store the result of this calculation, how simple it is. I want to store this again in the process, and I can do this by execution set variable. I can say approved or not, and this is a Boolean, right? So if the approval count is larger than or equals the rejected count, we're going to say that it's basically approved. All right, so we've got now the approved variable thanks to our script. We can now use this in our exclusive gateway. So here we can now select the condition expression. I can add something really simple here, like an expression saying approved. And otherwise, we're going to have a default flow going to rejected. All right, we're almost there. It's a simple review and approval. So let's save it, publish it again. And let's start a new instance. Close Flowable Inspect, start a new instance. Again, into review. And add 2 reviewers. Here we go. Submit. Doing the same dance as before. So let's say that we've got an approval here. And that we've got another approval here. Here we go. And if this thing has worked, you can see that it now actually went through approved. Inspect again. It moved through the calculation, through the exclusive gateway, into the approved. And we can actually now see that the approved is now shown on the screen. I can now, basically this is where we can stop the demo. I can make it a bit more fancy. Imagine I want to see the actual comments. I can add a new reference here. Say the approved form. Oops, here we go. And I can add, because I've got repetition going on here, right? I can use another subform. Results, I'm going to call this one, for example, and name this one result form. Go. What data do I have? Let's open up Inspect again. I've got the result array, which has the approval, so I can now bind this one. Right? This should then be result, not results. There we go. Again, I want to have multiple elements for each of the element in my result array. Go. And what I want to show, just to show you that it works, I want to put this on the screen and put the comment on the screen. So what I want is that if I've got 2 comments, it will show this as 2 comments on the screen. Again, I can make this way more fancy, put the review on the screen, put the rejection or approval on the screen. But I just want to show you that how this thing works. Saving it, publishing it. Here we go. And let's create a new instance. Document. Same dance again that we've done now a couple of times. Go. Flowable Inspect. Say approved. ABC. And this one approved with the EF. Here we go. And you can see that it now showed in the approval step basically my results, the comments. I could also make this non-editable. So I could also make this here non-editable. But you see how this is going. You get the point, right? That I can make this now a nice overview of the approvals that I've done. All right. I think this is it. We've got our review step. That's a multi-instance with the very powerful variable aggregation, which we can use to summarize our data. We've got the calculation of the approval, and then based on that calculation, we either go into the approve step or the rejected step. All right. That was all that I have to show you today around multi-instance and variable aggregation. I hope you learned a thing or two today, and hope to see you next time. Thanks for watching.